The Xbox brand is on fire. That's the simplest thing I can say, and it's been that way for the last number of years, and I think it really started once they bought the Activision Blizzard company. A $60 billion investment that Microsoft executives clearly weren't too crazy about almost immediately afterwards, and the pressure was on Xbox to start delivering and to increase profits. That's why we've seen Game Pass prices increase, and that's probably only going to continue into the future. So my concerns about Xbox has not been just limited to that. It's also just their output. You can look to the Halo brand. Halo infamously just has not delivered. And the future of Halo seems to be a Halo 1 remake, which, of course, I guess that's the only thing Halo can do nowadays, running on nostalgia. But also you can look at some of the other ventures. Starfield was supposed to be this massive new IP for the Xbox brand, and it just wasn't that. Redfall, infamous live service disaster that Phil Spencer had awkward interviews explaining, and even some of the successes that Xbox has had, like Indiana Jones, they just weren't the juggernauts that I think Xbox really was hopeful for. So seeing all the cuts and all the other things that have been happening at Xbox, it really isn't too surprising. But even so, I've been hopeful that things were going to turn around. But now we have this, and this is just the culmination of what we've seen the last couple of years, the investment of $60 billion into Activision Blizzard, buying that company, put pressure on Xbox leadership to deliver, to start making money. And again, that just hasn't necessarily happened, but yes, Microsoft is laying off as many as 9,000 employees, and this has massively hit the Xbox division, and even as we're recording this video, it's unclear if even more cuts are happening, but there's already been some massive news that we need to go over. It's quite clear this. The Xbox brand, the Xbox, this is a bloodbath for them. It truly is, and it really calls into question what games are going to be hitting the finish line in the next couple of years. But Phil Spencer put out this remark in regards to these cuts, saying, "To position gaming for enduring success and allowing us to focus on strategic growth, we will decrease work in certain areas of the business and follow Microsoft's lead in removing layers of management to increase agility and effectiveness." I think part of the problem with Microsoft, like Satya Nadella, who's the CEO, I just don't think they really respect or care about gaming as much, especially with AI accelerating, the massive rise. That's where their attention is. So with all the money and the investments that they've now made into gaming, they're looking at that like, guys, you're not delivering, so let's just start killing everything. And it really calls into question why anybody would want to be acquired by Xbox or any of these big companies with massive layoffs like this just continuing to happen. Now, the first piece of news that dropped this morning was the fact that Bloomberg reporting that Candy Crush developer King was laying off 10% of its staff, about 200 employees losing their jobs. And then the first AAA experience that we found out that was canned was the new MMORPG project from ZeniMax Online Studios. This had been in development since 2018, 2017. It had been 8 years of work had been put on this. We saw no teaser. There wasn't really any leaks. There was just rumors here and there. The only indication that we got officially was that this was a new IP coming from them, and it's now dead. Jason Schreier furthermore provided, saying he's Bloomberg journalist, saying the new MMORPG from ZeniMax Online Studios, makers of Elder Scrolls Online, has been canned. The project, codenamed Blackbird, had been in development since 2018, and then still more news to come this morning. Indeed, we have unfortunately heard from ZeniMax Online leadership, and looks like the ZeniMax Online studio president has stepped down after all of this, saying, "After more than 18 years leading ZeniMax Online Studios, I'll be stepping away later this month. The studio and Elder Scrolls Online will be in great hands under the direction of new studio head." And together, this leadership team has spearheaded many ESO biggest ideas and expansions. I will be cheering on you and adding to the thousands of hours I spent in game. And this is the disagreement that you're having. You have Xbox Studios, their leadership seeing this, and they're disgusted, and they want out after this. And this is just one of the things that consolidation in this industry, this is the dangers of it, because you have these studios, you have these leadership, these individuals leave, and a lot of talent follow as well, and that's probably what's going to happen with ESO. And what ends up coming in is just, this is a complete new studio. We see this so many time and time again, and it's only going to continue. And again, this is the only thing we knew about the new ZeniMax Online Studios project. It's no rumor our next AAA game is in development, and yeah, they called it a new AAA IP, and that's dead. We'll never know what it actually was until obviously leaks come out. But to the next massive unfortunate news. Jason Schreier also reporting that many of Xbox's subsidiaries are getting hit by layoffs this morning, including Call of Duty studios such as Raven, big cuts at Forza Motorsport developer Turn 10. Nearly 50% of staff are gone per source. That's actually insane. Because say what you will about the Xbox brand, the Forza devs, they have delivered time and time again, and Ryan McCaffrey of IGN, he pointed this out perfectly, saying it's batshit insane to me that Turn 10, a studio that literally never shipped anything less than a great game, is being reduced to perhaps a support studio with these cuts. What an absolute brutal business gaming is. And yeah, this is what they've done. This is what they've delivered over the last decades. And it is astonishing to see Xbox make this move, but I guess it's just they're not doing enough for the brand, so this is the culmination of it. Very unfortunate. And then we also heard that multiple Call of Duty studios have been hit by Xbox layoffs. Sledgehammer Games and Raven Software have been affected so far. And I will say this about the Xbox, just Call of Duty in general. I was really hopeful that some of these Activision studios, I think there's like 13 of them that work on Call of Duty, we're going to see Prototype or some other games revived, and that's just not happened at all. Another report saying that High Moon Studios, another one of these Call of Duty studios, has also been affected by Xbox layoffs, and they've been working on they've been a Call of Duty studio working on Warzone and other premium game support aspects. To the next one, we have Blizzard Vice President of Quality Assurance directed all QA staff to work from home. Today will be challenging. And this is the indication that there's many more announcements probably to come, because the West Coast, at least in the US right now, are just waking up, and it's unclear again if they're going to be hit with massive layoffs. And who knows if even more projects are about to be canceled. There seems to be indication that that is indeed coming. That's why I mean, the Xbox brand right now is burning, and I just don't think Microsoft really cares, the executives, because their attention is not on any of gaming anymore. And then this is the announcement that I think people need to understand, especially with Blizzard. This was just last year, which they laid off 1,900 employees after they acquired the company, and they canceled a couple of promising projects, such as the survival game that was in development. So Blizzard being hit by more layoffs, just, again, even more unfortunate. But this is one of the first massive announcements that was made, and it is that Everwild from Rare has been canceled. And I don't think people understand, this is a game that's been troubled development for a long time, so I'm not too surprised to hear this, except for the fact that there had been some promising words coming from Phil Spencer just a couple of months ago. He said this: we can give those teams time. This was in February. I guess not. Now, the big thing about Rare's Everwild is the fact that, again, it had been rebooted, including its prototype phase. Everwild had been in development for over a decade. That's just mismanagement, development hell. And a lot of this I do blame on Matt Booty, one of the executives in charge at Xbox, who has not done enough, in my opinion. He just one of those executives that just keeps rising up when in reality he just has a laundry list of failure that he's responsible for. At least I put a lot of blame for him doing a lot of this. Everwild had been in development for over a decade, with anonymous developers indicating that they struggled to nail down a clear direction for the title, even after a recent reboot of the project, which I believe happened about a year or so ago. Rare first announced Everwild in November 2019 and released another trailer in July 2020, and then it went just total silence. Updates on the games were scarce in the years that followed, except for gaming boss Phil Spencer's insistence the progress was being made on the title earlier this year, and that meant absolutely nothing. But yeah, for a reminder, I think a lot of people do forget, but this was Everwild. I'll lower the volume, but this was the original vision that they had, and it went absolutely nowhere. Now, the rebooted version, how drastically different it was from this art direction and the vibes of this, we don't know. We just know that this had been in development for so long, and finally it looks like at least Microsoft's management said, enough is enough, let's can this and let's move on. And it's unclear what Rare is going to be working on moving forward. Obviously, they still have their attention on Sea of Thieves support, but are they going to be making a new IP? Is there even going to be a want for that? It's unclear, and we also don't know how many layoffs right now is happening at Rare, but this was an interesting project. I wasn't exactly very excited for it. The art direction was at least interesting, but it's quite clear that this never culminated into anything, and now it's done. And as of recording this video, a massive departure has been announced, and it is the fact that Banjo-Kazooie Sea of Thieves director leaves Rare after 35 years following Everwild cancellation. Influential designer Greg Mays will leave the company, according to sources. This is according to VGC. And again, this is just the impact of layoffs like this. And when you have many individuals with future games saying, why is this game just not like previous entries, and why is it so much lesser? And it's because the team, the talent, the individuals that made this studio what they are, they're no longer there. And we just keep on seeing this time and time again. This is the impact of layoffs and moves like this. And it is also added in this article that according to their sources, executive producer Louise O'Connor, another Rare veteran whose first project was Conker's Bad Fur Day for Nintendo 64, will also leave the company following Everwild's cancellation. So the Rare that we've known, they're just no longer there. I think that's the best way to say it. And I do think it is worth mentioning that the quadruple A studio, the Initiative, there was so much hype, so much anticipation behind this because of the talent that they brought in. People don't remember this, but right around 2020 when this studio was formed, there was so many different articles about Naughty Dog developer joined, Rockstar devs, Bungie, so on and so forth. And ultimately, the Initiative is the latest that has been, well, canned, because Xbox has canceled Perfect Art, the Perfect Art reboot, and closed its developer. This is just honestly astonishing, and Matt Booty did email this to company staff saying, "We have made the decision to stop development on Perfect Dark. As part of this, we are closing one of our studios, the Initiative. These decisions, along with other changes across our teams, reflect a broader effort to adjust priorities and focus resources to set up our teams for greater success within a challenging industry landscape. We did not make these choices lightly, as each project and team represent years of effort, imagination, and commitment. Our overall portfolio strategy is unchanged: build games that excite our players, continue to grow our biggest franchises, and create new stories, worlds, and characters." I think the big thing is, with all of these layoffs and everything that's happened the last couple of years, how can you trust this leadership team? How can you trust Xbox at this point? Because I don't know how you can come to that conclusion. We have more than 40 projects in active development, continuing momentum on titles shipping this fall, and a strong slate headed into 2026. And it is worth mentioning the fact that Variety is reporting that a source close to the situation has told them that every game featured at this year's Xbox Game Showcase presentation in June is continuing on. Although I do think it is worth highlighting the fact that this showcase this year didn't have a lot of, massive releases in the future shown. Like Fable wasn't there, State of Decay wasn't there, Gears of War wasn't there, the Halo remake, there was nothing there. It was actually pretty absent of a lot of their major studios, which now, this remark here just doesn't mean much to me, but it does, I guess. Obsidian Entertainment and In Exile, I guess they're good to go for the future, but the other studios, questions remain. And it is worth mentioning that State of Decay 3 is still continuing on, but that is another studio that there is rumors that has been hit by these layoffs. And I do think it is worth mentioning just the fact that Perfect Dark, this was last year. Last year, we actually had this debut trailer. Obviously, people have their opinions on Joanna Dark and her design, the Crimson Chin, some people have called her, but the gameplay looked at least promising. I think the one big thing that I can take away from this footage is the fact that I could see what they were going for. And there was parts of this that actually looked promising. I don't know if it would have been a 10 out of 10 experience, but somebody who really loved Deus Ex Mankind Divided, I got those vibes from this footage. And it's just unfortunate that we're never going to see this come to the light of day. And also remember that Crystal Dynamics was assisting in the development of this title, and now that is no longer the case. Crystal Dynamics, hopefully they're not going to be hit by layoffs. I know that they're not under Microsoft, but they had been assisting on this. They had put a lot of resources, and now that this is over. And the one big thing I can take away from this footage was, one of my big concerns was that this may have been a little too scripted, and who knows how this was actually going to appear in a full game. But again, there's just things about this that was promising. So of the games that were canceled, the ZeniMax Online MMORPG, we never actually saw anything about that. Just a talented studio that I really wish they had done more than just ESO, but I guess that's all they are these days. Everwild from Rare, again, that's another title. It didn't look exactly that interesting. And then you have this. This is the title that I look at. I'm just like, it's extremely unfortunate. And even worse is that out of all these studios, this is the one that is being shut down completely. So just a massive disaster at Xbox. And, you know, say what you will about what Xbox and, you know, Phil Spencer and Matt Booty are putting out in statements, but it just doesn't mean much to me. And also on that note, since we're talking about this footage, it has to be mentioned that there's now a reporter, Ethan Gach, saying that, yeah, this footage was basically faked. It was another E3 demo, or, you know, showcase demo that was... It was a false impression of a game that did not exist, and I just don't know how there isn't consequences for this type of stuff, and how Phil Spencer, none of these individuals realize how bad of a look this is, and this industry just does not learn jack shit. But Mr. Matty Plays perfectly brought up that Xbox, since the top of 2024, the initiative closed down, Perfect Dark canceled, Everwild canceled, New ZeniMax Online Studios IP canceled, 50% of Turn 10 gone, 10% of King gone, layoffs at Raven Software, Arcane Austin closed down, Tango Gameworks nearly lost forever. They were revived, fortunately. Alpha Dog Games closed down. Roundhouse Studios closed down. Blizzard's Odyssey canceled, and thousands of developers losing their jobs. And this is just what we know of. There seems to be some other announcements and stuff maybe coming in the next hours, the next days. This is just a very bleak situation. And it is worth now mentioning the fact that there is now a rumor going around that Phil Spencer is already talking about an exit strategy. It looks like in the next maybe 3 years he is gone, and it looks like he's getting ready for Sarah Bond to take over. Another executive that just really hasn't done anything. I'm just going to be honest about that. But yeah, this is news coming from the Ghost of Hope, which is like a Call of Duty insider of sort. According to Hope, Phil Spencer is working closely with Sarah Bond and her team to ensure a smooth transition for her to take over as CEO of Microsoft Gaming once he retires. And apparently this is going to be happening around the time that the next generation launch happens, so about a couple years. And it's a rumor that this is Tom Henderson, another notable insider, saying, it's a rumor that I've heard a couple of times this year at the Summer Game Fest. And while I can't fully corroborate the claims, it's scuttlebutt that has been circulating for some time, and I guess it's probably easily speculated and expected. In fact, and for added context on how I've heard this rumor in the past couple of months, I even had a skeleton pre-write ready for today about Spencer leaving just in case he stepped down earlier, given today's recent bloodbath of layoffs. This is just a very bleak image of the Xbox brand. Like, you have other executives, people that used to be part of the Xbox brand, talking about how Xbox has abandoned the hardware side of things, and then you have the actual games and everything that they're putting out. It's just mass amounts of cancellations and firings. Just, this is a bloodbath, and I hate to say it, but really, it looks like Xbox is cooked at this stage, which is unfortunate because you look at what PlayStation's been doing this generation, and it's also been a lot of disappointment. So, of these, you know, massive companies, the console makers, besides Nintendo, you know, Xbox and PlayStation, this generation, just massive headaches in my opinion. And I truly do feel for the thousands of developers that are going to be impacted by this. But it's quite clear that Microsoft's executives, they don't necessarily respect or care about the gaming business, especially with their priorities now set on AI and other technology ventures. So I feel like layoffs and stuff like this could be something that only continues into the future, and who knows what's next at this stage. But anyway, what do you make of these massive layoffs and the cancellations? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. But thank you for watching. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy this video, or if you found any informative value. Consider subscribing for more videos like this, and I'll see you later.